Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our third annual Virtual Neighborhood Summit. We are so delighted you chose to spend your Saturday morning with us. My name is Michelle Ebanks, Neighborhood Services Manager for the City of Cedar Hill, and we have an amazing program for you today. I've had the pleasure of working for the city since 2016 and know many of you personally. If 2020 has taught us anything, is that Cedar Hill is a community that is strong, it is resilient, and that you love your neighbors. I'd like to take a moment to introduce you to our Neighborhood Advisory Board members who helped organize this amazing event for you. On the screen, you'll see our Neighborhood Advisory Board members. We have Kim Remmer, Cliff Cravens, Elizabeth Guillen, Frida Nelms, Sherman Robertson, Kiara Bird, Reginald Williams, Jeff Saldivar, Yolanda Coates, Joyce Prettle, and Sabrina Swift. We'd like to kick off this morning by doing a quick giveaway for everyone that registered. First, we're going to do a giveaway for our Cedar Hill chair. Stand by. So let's see who's going to win the first giveaway. We're going to be doing giveaways throughout the entire summit, so you guys make sure to stick around all the way till the end. First person is Miss Christine Benson. Next, we're going to do our Cedar Hill mask and mug. For your early morning coffee or tea and a Cedar Hill Strong mask. This goes to Miss Marilyn Little. Thank you guys. Like I said, we are going to be doing some giveaways, so make sure to stay tuned until the end. This next person truly needs no introduction. It's council's priority that we lean in and focus on neighborhood engagement. Many of you already know our newly elected mayor, Steve Mason. Mayor Mason has served on the council since 2010. He has been an intricate part of the evolution of neighborhood services. He is a strong advocate of empowering neighborhood leaders and building stronger community. We are happy to have him here this morning to kick off this year's summit. Please welcome Mayor Mason.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Michelle. How do I get my name on the list for any of those items? I want to welcome you here today. Thanks for joining us. I'll tell you, it was a year ago that I attended the second annual Neighborhood Summit. And what I really took away from that was the engagement from everyone representing their neighborhood, how we was fellowshipping, how we had some brainstormers, some brain teasers, and we was able to work together in order to try to work those out. So I was really looking forward to this year's Neighborhood Summit. But thanks to Michelle and her team, thank you to the Neighborhood Advisory Board to continue to have the Neighborhood Summit, even through the conditions that we're going through with the Neighborhood Summit. I just want to be able to take a moment out to be able to thank you. I have attended several neighborhood associations, whether it was a virtual, that you continue to move the needle forward for you to be able to try to make your communities better. I really do appreciate your leadership. I appreciate your effort. If you could just, I'm looking forward to what you have planned for today as we talk about diversity, inclusions, and race equity. This gives us an opportunity for us to be able to build bridges and continue to build bridges throughout our neighborhoods and also foster relationships. And with that, I'll look forward to the rest of the program, and hopefully I'll be able to see you soon. Have a good day.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday. I am so excited that you guys are all here for this year's Neighborhood Summit. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing to you our speaker, Errika Flood-Moultrie. She's not only a dynamic speaker, I also have the privilege of calling her a friend. And the one thing that I can say about her, I know she doesn't like long introductions, so I'm just going to condense this for you guys. Errika is best known as the connection catalyst, equipped with the ability to strategically guide and facilitate leaders and organizations in the development, implementation, and funding for exciting and innovating new initiatives. Errika is a collaborator that approaches each opportunity by quickly assessing agency strengths and opportunities and producing collaboration that is far more impactful than any one partner could alone. She is an amazing, amazing collaborator. And so if you guys can please just help me in welcoming her today. I'm so excited that you guys get to hear from her, and I look forward to just connecting with you guys.
So I'm going to act like I'm supposed to go. Good morning. So this is fun. This is amazing to be able to be here with you all on Saturday morning and look at the screen and know that there are people that are out there listening and participating this morning. So happy Saturday. Thank you all so much for the invitation to be able to come and speak and participate in the Neighborhood Summit. I'm not in Cedar Hill. I'm actually in DeSoto, but I feel like I am in Cedar Hill because if you go one block, I'm in Cedar Hill. If you go the other block, I'm in Duncanville. So I feel like I'm a part of the city. I'm really excited about the things that are happening for our communities. And I'm excited to be able to have this conversation with you all because diversity, equity, inclusion are what are required for us to be able to continue to grow our cities, quite honestly, to attract individuals to our communities, for us to be able to come together and have relationship with one another. There's a process to it all. And so I'm going to spend a little bit of time in that space, being able to talk with you all about that. But mainly it really is about connection and eliminating barriers. So thank you. I have to thank Michelle for her patience in inviting me to be a part and being a speaker. Thank you, Mayor Mason, for your service. I so appreciate you and the work that you are doing. And thank you for those who are listening and who aren't going to hang up on the Zoom call. So here we are, right? We're going to be talking equity, diversity, and inclusion. And there are plenty of like whys, I'm sure, in the audience for the people who are listening. And even when we start to bring it up just in community, why diversity, equity, and inclusion, especially when it comes to neighborhoods and communities. So that's why I'm here, right? To talk about the why. Can I just say it's important, period, and then leave and then give you 30 minutes more back on your life? That would be a lot of fun to be able to do, but I'm just kidding in that space. I do want to spend some time just to talk about why diversity, equity, inclusion, and it not just being about it's the right thing to do or the good thing to do, but it's the necessary thing to do when it comes to neighborhoods, community, and even economy, right? When we think about the economy, diversity, equity, inclusion affect our economy. So let me do a little foundation setting. I want to talk a little bit about the definitions of the words that you're going to hear. So diversity, let's start there. So diversity is the understanding that each individual, everybody is unique, and we recognize our individual differences. These can be along the dimensions of race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, age, physical abilities, religion, political beliefs, or other ideologies. And so diversity is recognizing that there are many colors in the rainbow. That's exactly what it is. And they all have their own unique setting and place. When it comes to community, when it comes to individuals, they have a unique space. Inclusion is the action or state of including or being included within a group structure. So inclusion is inviting people to the table. That's exactly what it is, that we want to make sure that we're being inclusive. And so we invite people to the table. And then we use the language, we invite a diverse group of people to the table. So we have that conversation too. And then we have racial equity. And I am sure that you all have heard a lot around racial equity right now, right? In 2020, we've had a lot that has happened. You know, there are a lot of names that can be spoken, Breonna Taylor and Sandra Bland and police brutality and all of that. That's all related, you know, school systems, that's all related to racial equity. But if we were to put a definition around it, it's the process and outcome that would be achieved if one's racial identity no longer predicted in a statistical manner how one would fare. So it would be if we all of a sudden went colorblind, right? And we all were the same exact, and that there were no barriers to admission, to inclusion, to participation, that would be racial equity. I am sure that you have seen lots of images around racial equity, where there's the one where the father and young boys, sons, are standing at a fence. Then they lower the fence, then they give boxes, and then finally they eliminate the fence, right? And so it really is about eliminating those barriers that are there based on our diversity. And so it's really important that we understand, and I lay that foundation for everybody, that we understand that diversity is the rainbow, all the different colors, all the different ways that we're made, all of our independence, all of our uniqueness. Inclusion is inviting people to the table. All of those colors get invited to the table. And racial equity is eliminating the barriers and having an equitable space for us all to participate. So I start with these definitions because they're floating out there. Everybody talks about them and everybody's like, what are they exactly? And so I need to make sure that we're all on the same page, right? So let's start there as we move our discussions forward this morning. I will tell you that I work in a space, so they didn't include the long introduction, which I appreciate because the bio that I have is ridiculously long. But one of the things that I do is that I'm the Director of Operations and Program Strategy for Dallas Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation. And so we are an organization that is focused on the elimination of racism, that there is no North-South divide here in Dallas. And we do it through a couple of different ways. We do it through narrative change, we do it through relationship building or racial healing, and we do it through equitable policies and practices. So I work in a space where I talk about and work on racial equity most of the time, and diversity and inclusion may be an entree into having the conversation, but we really want to make sure that we are staying in that space of talking about racial equity, because we need to not necessarily invite people to the table, but get rid of the table, you know, and be able to invite people and eliminate power dynamics when it comes to the way that we are running a lot of our systems. So we really need to be aware in our situation, what we're working on. But for today, we're going to do diversity, equity, and inclusion. And if you want to talk some more about racial equity, I'll be glad to do it. So let's start with why diversity, equity, and inclusion for neighborhoods. Like, why is that important? Like, okay, Errika, we get it. We all need to be friendly, and let's go from there. So that's good. Let's, you know, be friendly and recognize that we're all different. But there really is some statistical data and information around why we need to be focused on DEI when it comes to our communities. So the first is around ensuring that there's social cohesion, right? That there are organizations, there's the local governments that have invested in departments for community engagement and citizen engagement, officers, ambassadors to be able to do the work to bridge the gap within the community and foster connections between people and the places where they live. And so it's really important for us to have that social cohesion. And it takes us being responsible and having the conversation around diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? We need to have that. We need to understand each other's truths and passions and understand our histories to be able to come together socially, right? And so that's really important that we have that. Second, when we do inclusion correctly, we create a collaborative environment that empowers local residents' ownership and elevates community leadership. And so, like, why is that important? When our residents own our community, they are all about bringing value, right? And so the conversations happen on how do we make our community better? But if we're excluding one part of the community or one individual from it, that doesn't happen. And our communities start to look so different. They start to have problems because we're not being inclusive and we're not having that conversation with the full community. It's important that we do that. So it's necessary that we have that so that we do have that resident ownership so that we can elevate our community leadership and the community value. And then the last thing is around excluding people can sever their sense of belonging to the neighborhood, which then can cause them to not be invested in ensuring the neighborhood or community is as strong as it can be. Really important for us to talk about that, right? We talked about that, about being inclusive, but what does exclusion looks like? Diversity of thought, when we're including people, brings huge benefits, right? That includes financial benefits. Businesses look for diversity within community when considering moving their businesses to a certain city or having their headquarters to be moved there, even for those suburbs. So we would be considered a suburb for sure. And so when organizations are looking for where they're going to move into, they want to make sure that the communities that they're bringing their employees to are inclusive and allow their employees to bring their full family and be full on. So it's really important that we think about that, because that's about economic abundance. We want our economy to grow. What does it take for that to happen? We need people to spend money, but we need people to be where we are. And if we're not inclusive of individuals, inclusive of everyone, and eliminate barriers to access, we won't have that, and our communities won't thrive. I enjoy living in a place where I can thrive and my friends and my family can thrive who live in this same community. And Cedar Hill does that, right? We're all about a thriving community. Very important for that to happen. So I love this quote that I got from the American Sustainable Business Council as I was doing just a little bit of research in this space. It says, unless opportunities and gains are shared equitably among all workers, owners, and business leaders, we will not have strong, ongoing economic growth. Inequality among ethnic groups, women, LGBTQ+, and people with disabilities hinders prosperity for all and fuels the need for safety nets in lieu of self-empowerment, independence, and respect. Let that soak in for just a minute. Economic growth, ongoing economic growth is important for what we're trying to do and for our communities. We want to live in a space that continues to grow and that can be sustained. And so we really do have to embrace that space around diversity, equity, and inclusion. We really need to make sure that we're inviting everyone to the table. And if we have to break that table down and we have to build another one to make sure that everyone is included, then we're going to have to do that. So at this point, you may be saying, okay, Erika, that all feels good, but what does that all really mean? An inclusive economy is representative of all interest in society. That's what it means. Major minority population groups, women and men of every generation, an inclusive economy. And we have to be in that space. We have to have the conversations around diversity, equity, and inclusion so that our economy can grow, our neighborhoods can be safe. We can have relationship with one another. We can understand each other's truths and not be afraid to have conversations about what those truths are, because there are truths that are out there that take a lot of courage for us to have dialogue. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that, about the importance of that, but it really is important. So a 2017 report from Westpac, the Diversity Dividend, found that businesses could record an average of 2.1 percentage point increase in profitability through gender equity parity in senior management. How many people out there like the idea of profitability? And although this is talking about gender equity, think about when we expand this equity across the board, right? That when we start talking about profitability, it feeds into our community then, it feeds into our neighborhoods, it feeds into our government. And it's really important that we have that there. So we need to have that parity, we need to have that inclusion, we need to have that diversity as we're moving forward. Profit is profit, right? And so higher profit means lots of things. And so we need to make sure that we're really paying attention. So what are the benefits to the workforce when we think about this, right? So we talked about neighborhood, we've talked about community, we've talked just a little bit about governance, but what are the benefits to the workforce outside of money when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion? So here are some stats for you data people. That's not me, but I want to make sure that I include everybody. 17% of employees reported they are more likely to be high performing when there is diversity, equity, and inclusion as a part of the organization. They see it, they know it, they get it. They will perform better. 20% of employees are more likely to say they will make quality decisions for the organization to move the organization forward. So that should be a selling point right there, right? Quality decisions are being made because people are feeling included. And I will tell you that when we get into the idea around workforce and racial equity, there's a level of human dignity that we need to consider. That when you consider and value my ethnicity and you respect it, I have a higher level of dignity and I'm going to invest in your organization by being a high performer. So then the last stat that I'll share is that 25% of employees report and demonstrate a collaborative behavior in the workforce when diversity, equity, and inclusion are paid attention to and people are doing the work around it. 29% around collaboration. And that collaboration doesn't stay just in-house within employers. That collaboration goes out into our communities, goes out into our neighborhoods. And so when we're thinking about having to get things done within our city, we need to have that collaborative behavior. We have to have it just so that we can work together between DeSoto, Cedar Hill, and Duncanville, right? Let's think about that for a second, that we are a powerful triangle when we think about the work that we're doing. And if we really were to pay attention to DEI, so I'm going to shorten it up a little bit, imagine the power that we bring. Imagine the power that we have. So I asked the question, how many business owners or supervisors are out there, right? And they want to have employees that are collaborative, they want to have them making quality decisions, and they want to have high performers. And I know I can't see anybody, but I'm imagining that everybody's hand is up. And for those who are not up, they're thinking about it and they want to get there. And I just need to have a little more conversation with them. We really want to have that. And DEI is all about supporting that and making sure that happens. So I can't see you, but I can imagine that there are still questions, you know, going back to, well, this is a neighborhood summit. And so what does this have to do with the neighborhood? Everything. Absolutely everything. Because we live in neighborhood. We leave from our employers, we come home in neighborhood. We leave from going off somewhere else, right, to go visit, to go travel, but we come back to neighborhood. And our neighborhoods need to grow and thrive. And we have to make sure that we're respecting the diversity of all of our neighbors, of all of our community, that we are having those conversations. And so when diversity, equity, and inclusion are approached honestly and courageously and authentically, it will permeate every space we inhabit and build stronger individuals, communities, and neighborhoods. Let me say that again. When approached honestly, courageously, and authentic, it will permeate every space we inhabit and build stronger individuals, communities, and neighborhoods. So it's worth the investment so that our neighborhoods can grow, so that our real estate will sell. You know, when you think about it, we want to invite people into community, into our neighborhoods. We want them to invest in their properties and make it really pretty. So I'm going to do just a little side note. So I'm a part of a Facebook group that's all about Black women who appreciate outdoors and backyards. And we have just cut the fool, quite honestly, in this website or on this Facebook page. But everybody was willing to invest. Maybe not necessarily because of the neighborhood, because I don't know all the neighborhoods, but because we were all appreciated on this Facebook page for the uniqueness that we brought, right? And we have conversation within that group about what we all bring, our socioeconomic status. I mean, it's amazing what we can do. Imagine if that trickled into our neighborhoods. Our backyards are beautiful. So you should go there. If you haven't been there, you should go and see the page. But our backyards are beautiful. Imagine our front yards being beautiful, people walking and having conversation and dialogue and wanting to understand our uniquenesses and what we bring to the table. So it's not easy. Let me say that. It's not always easy, right? For us to be able to do this, to be able to step out there and be courageous to have those conversations. There's history to deal with that hasn't created the most trustworthy spaces in a lot of communities. But starting with telling our truths and sharing our truths, acknowledging them, acknowledging the part that we played in it is a starting place. And it really does start to move our communities into a much more diverse, inclusive, and an equitable space. And so in the work that I do with Dallas Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation, we start with truth. We will tell the truth. We'll talk about the truth of all communities and what effect it's had on us and what trauma was there. And then we move into a place of racial healing, right? Or healing practices and relationship building to then move into systems change, right? To equitable policies and practices. And it's important that we do that in neighborhood. So, like I said, I'm not in Cedar Hill, but I'm in DeSoto, but I feel like I'm in all of those places because if you just drive one block around me, I get into any one of those places. But what I love about where we live and the place that we are is the opportunity to really engage in a supportive community that values diversity, equity, inclusion in my neighborhood. That's what we do. We really do. And the fact that you all are willing to have this conversation today means that there's a value to it from your leadership. And I really do appreciate Michelle inviting me in to be able to have this conversation because it's important. We have to move this forward. There are lots of different topics that you could have this morning, but this one, we really need to take it and take it deeper. I really want to encourage leadership to have more conversation and dialogue about what it means for our communities. We have such an opportunity to partner with our neighbors to get a place that is creative, right, in our communities. Problem solving, when we talk about that, I talked about that a little bit earlier, that we come together as a neighborhood that has embraced DEI and that the problem solving is increased because we've recognized each other's truths and we've brought in creativeness and our uniqueness and appreciate it. Problem solving will be a part of that, that we are collaborative as neighbors, right? I know that you all are gonna have an award that's gonna go out for the neighborhood, and a lot of that award is probably based on the collaboration of putting together amazing programming that happens within that neighborhood. That is all a part of and as a solution to or resolution to diversity, equity, and inclusion and the appreciation for it. And then the final thing is having high performing neighborhoods. And that can look so many different ways. I know we talked about it within employers, but it also trickles down into neighborhoods. So yes, a neighborhood can be high performing. Our city services can be high performing when we embrace that. Our businesses can be high performing. It's all trickle down. And all if we just embrace the need to rid ourselves of systems and beliefs of hierarchy of human value and embrace the uniqueness of each individual person. So then the question becomes like, what does that look like? What does that look like to, eliminate that hierarchy of human value? Errika, there have to be supervisors that are out there, taking responsibility. Yes, you're absolutely right. And that's not what I'm talking about. But we have to eliminate that there is one better than the other and that we all can't bring our own creativeness to the table. So when we think about diversity, equity, and inclusion and what it looks like to eliminate that hierarchy for neighborhood associations, the question becomes, is everybody invited and included? And is the only hierarchy that exists those that are about managing projects for the neighborhood? That's a question to ask, right? Within city leadership, does community engagement engage the full community no matter the socioeconomics of all? Very important for us to pay attention to, but that's what it looks like. For neighbors, are you welcoming of all of your new neighbors and engaging everyone to move to Cedar Hill because we appreciate and value diversity? Is that a place that you're in? And now for those introverts, I get it. Going over and taking some banana bread to your neighbor may not be your thing, but a good, nice wave will work. And when there's some sort of project that's going on, engaging everyone in the process and in the project is really important. And then for schools, right, our school systems, are you considering the inequities, the historical inequities our students have experienced and valuing the opportunity to improve on their experience by ridding the district of any of those historical inequities? Right? Are we making sure that we're including all children? Are we making sure that we're providing all children with the resources that they need and eliminating any of those barriers that are there? So we have to ask ourselves these questions. We have to be ready to have courageous conversations about everything I've talked about today, about history, and appreciate and sympathize with the good and the bad of it all to be able to move DEI forward. We must think about the inclusiveness of our community. If we want to engage more businesses and have employees that want to come into our communities and raise their families and stay here and bring their economic power. Let's just talk about that for a little bit, right? Really important that we want to make sure that they bring their economic power into our communities, and DEI is going to help us in doing that. So where do we start? First, like I've said, tell the truth. Understand the truths of your community, of your neighbors, of your neighborhoods, the history of Cedar Hill. Embrace it, value it, understand the impact that it's had on your community members, on your neighborhoods, and then be able to move into a place of relationship building. So that's number 2, right? Let's move into relationship with one another. Authentic, transparent relationship building required. We have to get back into knowing our neighbors. We're in a pandemic right now, right? We're not going anywhere. So let's get to know one another and have those conversations. And when we're on those walks that everybody's taking nowadays, like wave at your neighbors that you haven't seen because nobody was walking before. And now that the weather's getting beautiful, just side note, we should absolutely be out there having those walks and having those conversations. Sit out in your front yard and have that dialogue. Listen, make me the bad person and say, I was listening to this woman the other day. I think her name was Errika something, but she brought up a really good suggestion about talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I want to talk with you about that, right? What does that look like for you? And if you don't feel comfortable in that space of bringing up the DEI world, just starting to have those conversations is important. And then finally, we need to change the systems that keep us from being diverse, inclusive, and equitable. Look at your membership requirements of anything and ask yourself, is there anything hindering someone from participating? And if the answer is yes, get rid of it. Figure out a way so that we can have that inclusiveness, we can have that equity, we can have diversity in the things that we're doing. And then once we move into that place of truly understanding and then moving into appreciating DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, our communities get stronger, our economy grows, and our families benefit for the long term. So again, listen, it's a long road, absolutely a long road. It's work that has to be done, but you can do it. Cedar Hill, you have the ability. You have those individuals in place that want to have the conversations, and so you should do it. So I want to thank you again this morning for letting me come on in here and have this conversation. You are welcome to ask Michelle if you can get in touch with me and email me if you have any additional questions around this. I want to have the conversation. I want to grow our communities. I want to make us better. So please, please, please feel free to reach out. Again, Errika Moultrie, tell your neighbors. I met this woman this morning. She was on Zoom, Errika Moultrie. I kind of questioned what she had on the bottom half because she had this really cute shirt on, but who knows what was going on the bottom because we were on Zoom. And, just reach out. So thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you, Mayor, for all the work that you do. And I will pass it back to the group.
Errika, that was amazing. I actually had the opportunity to go to your neighborhood yesterday to drop off a little token of appreciation, and you were sworn to not open that little gift until you were on camera. Do you actually have it near you?
I do. Yay! Wait. I purposely put it out of sight. Look, here it is. I didn't open it. Yay!
So that's just a little token of our appreciation. Thank you so much for bringing this conversation to Cedar Hill. It is truly all about DEI and collaboration. I always say you can't say Cedar Hill without thinking about collaboration. So at this time, we would like to take some questions. If you guys have any comments or questions, if you can raise your hand or do *9 if you have called in. At this time, we'll go ahead and take some questions with Errika.
Don't be afraid. It's okay. You can do it.
And we do have a question from Mayor Mason. So,
hey, Mayor.
Hello, can you see?
I can't see you.
Okay, no problem. You probably can't see me. I can see you though. Well, hold on, we can make it a little bit more formal.
Okay.
Oh, there I am. Thank you, Michelle.
Mhm.
So I guess to kind of kick it off, I guess for diversity, equity, and inclusion, knowing that our community, I would say, is somewhat engaged, what would be the first step that we would do going towards that? For example, should we focus more on diversity first, equity first, inclusion, maybe a little bit of a mixed bag? What do you think we should do first?
Yeah, so I definitely want to encourage you to do a mixed bag. And so I always tell people, there are people who are like, why do you even engage in diversity and inclusion? Because you really are trying to get to racial equity. But you have to recognize that people have a comfort level, right? So I talked about having courageous conversations, but you also have to make sure that you are talking the same language with the people who are in the room. So you need to get people to a comfort level to start with diversity, to start with what does that mean, right? Move maybe into an inclusion space and then get to racial equity. Racial equity is hard work. It really is. And that, you have to get into the truths and really have some courageous conversations to talk about some histories that a lot of us don't know and then aren't comfortable with having that conversation. So it makes it a little bit harder. So I always tell people like, take it at the level that your group or organization can engage and then move forward, but always in a space of equity, always in that conversation of how do we become an equitable city, an equitable organization? What do we need to do? Because we now understand the history of our community or our organization. We understand the trauma that was associated with it. We appreciate the diversity and uniqueness of the people who are sitting at the table. And now let's move to that place.
Great. Well, before I leave, I just want to say that was a great presentation. I wanted you to hear it directly from me personally. And I will reach out to Michelle so we can continue to maybe partner on some future projects.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Mason, for all of your work. Y'all listen, y'all need to thank your mayors, your city council, all of that good stuff, because you couldn't do that work. Y'all know that. So go on and shake his hand and pat him on the back for giving up lots of hours with his family and his friends to make sure that your city is amazing. So thank you, Mayor Mason.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I didn't pay her to say that. So thank you.
Oh,
And we have one more question from Dr. Anderson. Dr. Anderson, if you want to go ahead.
Okay. Hey, it's Alina. And
hi,
I guess my name's on there from work. Sorry, it's Alina. And I first wanted to thank Michelle for putting this together. And I think it's so necessary. It's timely. And Erika, you did an amazing job of bringing a lot of information to us so that we in our communities can start this process or continue with working towards inclusion, racial equity, and diversity. My question is there a resource or a playbook or something that we could use in our communities, just kind of something that we could go back to as we're putting this in place and making sure that our systems that we have are aligning with what would give us the result of having a diverse, inclusive community that has a focus on racial equity?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Elena. So thank you so much. So there's lots of resources online. And what I can do is, Michelle, I'll provide it so that you can send it out, but a couple of starting places. One, dallastrht.org. There's lots of information that's there. The second is the State Fair of Texas has just put out a racial equity resource guide that is amazing, great definitions and information that's there. The other is GARE, and I right now I'm drawing a complete blank around what GARE stands for, government something, but it's gare.org, GARE.org, which actually has tools and information for cities specifically and government agencies. And so they have a great toolkit that's available there. So you could go there as well. And then the last thing is Errika at myconnect3.com. You could always reach out to me and I will be glad to get that information to you. But I'll send Michelle some other resources that maybe she can send out in an email so that you can have those other places to go as well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And nice to be in touch with you. I haven't seen you in years.
I know. Hey. Okay,
Thank you for
Michelle,
that,
we'll
Dr.
won't
Anderson.
cut up anymore.
Thank you. Yes, we'll definitely send out some additional resources. We do have another question by Mike Laura, if you want to go ahead.
Hello, how's everybody doing? Sorry about that. Errika, thank you for the presentation. Michelle, thank you for inviting me, for being on here. So we've been in Cedar Hill for 3 years, and I've never ever done anything with community before I came here to Cedar Hill. You know, the mayor has been great. I helped with the campaign. I helped with some other campaigns and just different things in the community, being volunteering and being involved. But how do we, besides my actions, showing that to other neighbors, right? How else can we let them know that even an hour out of your week is important? You know, how can we bring, because for me, I never thought I would ever do anything like this. I never thought I would be part of a community, part of a city that would be able to make a difference, right? But now I'm starting to feel like I do. I'm starting to feel included. You know, Mayor Mason, I mean, he contacts me and then getting involved in the community, but my kids see that as well, you know. And my husband and I have lived here for 3 years, and we have 4 kids, right? And everybody's like, I've had people ask me, so you've never been discriminated against or people say anything about you? And I said, no. I said, I've never felt that, you know. I said, I may get a look or something, you know, but no one's ever really said anything, you know. And I welcome questions, you know. I'm very open about, you know, whatever. And but it's for me, it was like, I wish somebody would have maybe been there to help me understand further, because it was the initiative that I took to do this, you know. So how can we get like that part of the community that thinks that, you know what, my little whatever I do is not going to matter?
So I hope that they take this question all the way through today. So I'm going to start with my answer, and then if there are others who want to chime in, I would absolutely welcome it. The first thing is share your story. Absolutely share your story every time you get an opportunity to do that, Mike, to talk about who you are, tell your truth, and then how you took that initiative. Because a lot of times people don't engage because they've never seen someone be successful in that space, right? I'm different. And so I haven't seen anyone who is like me that's been successful in engaging.
Right.
The other is to tell the truth of the city of Cedar Hill, right? That the city is an inclusive city and that they welcome everyone to the table. You know, we are a suburb, and there are people who have conversation out there that are like, you know, these suburbs, DeSoto, Cedar Hill, and Duncanville are, you know, wealthy people of color who don't necessarily want to engage. I've actually heard that. And so we have to change that narrative. A part of the work that I do is all about narrative change. And so we have to make sure to change that narrative to talk about the inclusivity of our city and how we want to make sure that everybody's engaged. And then the last thing, and this goes towards the city, is about how do we make sure to let people know how they can engage, not just putting it on our website, right? Because a lot of people won't take that initiative, but getting those ambassadors who will go out there and talk about and engage people in the work that they're doing. So my background, I've been in the nonprofit sector for most of my career, well, all of my career. I'm having a milestone birthday, so I've been out here a really long time, and I've worked in community engagement for most of that time. And one of the things that's important is to get out there into community and to start to hear other people's truths and talk with them about how they can engage, because it's hard to take that initiative when there's fear associated, when there's no trust that's built, right? When there's just this, you know, unknowing around what the resolution or solutions might be, how it is that I will be received, no matter what my uniqueness is. And so we have to really do a much better job on being able to get out there and tell that truth and to be able to engage people where they are. So I appreciate you for taking an initiative. There are not a lot of people who are out there that will do that. And so we have to get out into the streets. It's the rule of community engagement when you're working in the nonprofit sector. You have to get out into community. You have to knock doors. You have to have those conversations. You have to go where the community is and where they gather to get them engaged and involved. And then ask the question, how can we engage you better? How? Don't tell them, but how is it that we can engage you better? How is it that we can share our story better? Because we want to be that inclusive city.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Absolutely, Erica. We have one more question from Terrence Bass. Terrence, if you want to go ahead.
You may need to press *6 to unmute your phone to ask your question.
We can't hear you, Terrence.
Okay, let's jump over to Cliff Cravens. Cliff, if you want to go ahead.
Well, I guess it went back to what Mike was talking about. So you pretty much answered my question, but I just wanted to say I appreciated the comment you spoke about inclusiveness and feeling included within your neighborhood. Because if you don't feel included, then there's no buy-in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point I got from you in that regard. And I thought that was a very, very good statement. It was a vital statement. Because there won't be any inclusion, there won't be any engagement if they don't feel included, if there's fear, whatever the case may be. And my question was, how can we build on that? How can we change that within our neighborhoods, within our society at large? And you pretty much answered that. But if you have further comments on that, I would appreciate that also.
No, so I would want to add one more thing. And so this is actually a real life story for me in my neighborhood, and something that I wanted to try to do, and how I had to engage my neighbors a little differently. So we're all out walking, right? Everybody sees everybody now because we're in this pandemic and the weather's been good and all that good stuff. And so I was like, how do I get my neighborhood to do like a little bit of like a block party? Not that we would all come together at somebody's one house, but it would be like a walking tour of the neighborhood. You sit out in the front yard and have your table. And if you have a, cooler of water and people are walking, you might want to give them water. So anyway, I was like, let's see how we can do this if there's an opportunity for that. And so I was talking to one of my neighbors and said I wanted to do it at a particular time of the year. And she said to me, I need for you to pick another time, because that is not, she wanted to make sure that it wasn't a celebration of a specific holiday, and that it would really seen as something that was inclusive, that didn't exclude any particular ethnicity of the neighborhood. And I was like, absolutely. I mean, this was not, I didn't approach her in a place that we're going to celebrate this holiday. It was just, I wanted our neighborhood to come together. But we have to like look at our neighbors face to face and eye to eye, and understand that there might be something that is excluding them. There might be a belief, there might be a, space that they're in. And you can either have a conversation and, convince them, or have the dialogue of, how they can be involved in what you're presenting, or you make a change. And I made a change. I was like, no, that's not what I'm trying to do. It's all about neighborhood. I want to be inclusive. And so let me think about a different date to be able to bring everybody together where we're not celebrating any one particular thing. And we decided that we were going to do it later in the fall where the weather would be better, because we were talking summer at the time. And she was like, I absolutely will be involved. And she's actually going to be like one of my water stops, because I'm going to create a 5K as a part of that too. Since we're all walking anyway, we might as well do a 5K around the neighborhood, which actually helps people to like get to know the neighborhood even more. So you have to be open and ready for that, because if I weren't who I was, I could have been blown away and been like, girl, what are you talking about? I can't believe that you wouldn't want to do this. I just want to bring the neighbors together. Instead, we have to really respect where people are and their understanding. And you have an understanding too, right? That I didn't think about that. I really wasn't trying to offend, but this is something in somebody's truth, and I need to be able to work through it. So it's really important that we do that. Thank you for your question, Clifton.
Thank you for your response.
Kristen Benson, are you on?
Just wanted to commend Erika for the work that she's doing in the community. Such a fantastic job. And today has been very inspirational to me. And I would hope to be able to engage with you even more so in the community.
Thank you, Christine. I appreciate that. Y'all just made my Saturday morning. It was all worth putting on lipstick this morning.
Thank you for that. We do have a caller, last 43209. If you want to unmute yourself by pressing *6 and go ahead with your question or comment. Again, we have a
Good
question.
morning.
There she is.
Hi, this is Saranda Bell. I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. First, I want to thank Errika. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, and I hope to get to meet you in person one day soon because I'm very passionate about building community. I also want to thank Michelle for putting this all together and Neighborhood Services for offering this amazing way to start our Saturday. One thing you said, Errika, about being out and about, I just got done with my morning walk on the trails and was able to talk to so many different people, some that didn't even live in Hill. But I love the idea of continuing this conversation. And I work for the library here in Cedar Hill. And one way that I think that really helps people sometimes break down walls are through having conversations around books that have been written. Question one, what is your favorite book on diversity, inclusion, or racial equity? And then two, are you an author and have you written any books?
Well, it's amazing that you asked me that question. So no, I am not an author and have not written any books. So thank you for that. That's not my ministry, just saying that. But I am a professor for Tulane University, an adjunct professor, and teach a course on racial equity, diversion, and inclusion in the public sector. And my students are always like, oh my gosh, you have so much reading for us to do, because there are so many resources that are out there. So I will actually show you my course books that they have this semester. So this is the first one. It's How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram.
Oh, yes, yes.
It is amazing and so good. The other is, and I love this book for the exercises that it takes you through. So this one is Stay Woke, A People's Guide to Making All Black Lives Matter. And the reason that I like this is because there are exercises in there that the author actually will say, maybe I got it wrong. You should have a conversation about, and he'll like fill in the blank. One of the exercises my students just had to do was about counter narrative and having to come up with a counter narratives on 6 scripts that the author presents in the book. So that's pretty amazing. So that's one. The other one is I'm Still Here, Black Dignity in a World of Whiteness, which is really good. White Fragility is the other one that I don't have my hands on, that I can't actually show on the screen, but that's another opportunity as well. And then the last one, The Chaos of My Office, if anybody can actually see the screen, is Why Are All the Black Children Sitting in the Cafeteria? And, you would think, or there's 2 more actually. You would think that this is just about schools, but it's not. There's so much more associated with it. And then my Eve Ewing book is missing. That's who's missing. So Eve Ewing, oh, here it is. Sorry. Ghost in the Schoolyard is another one by Eve Ewing, who's an amazing author. She's actually come and spoke. And this is about school systems in Chicago and the closings that were happening there. But what's even more interesting about this book is she talks about the trauma associated with closing schools because of the historic value of that school and the emotional tie of communities with those schools and what that says about respecting our history. So that's another amazing book that I would recommend. So there are lots of them. If you want to come over and be able to go through my library, I'd be glad to do that because there is so much available nowadays.
Well, and I love those titles. In fact, we have a display up, and several of those, like How to Be an Anti-Racist, are on the display at the library. So I would love to chat, but thank you again for just sharing your passion. And I look forward to just continuing the conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. And good for you for walking this morning.
Thank you again, Erika, for encouraging us to tell our truth. So thank you for spending your Saturday morning with us.
You're so welcome. Have a great day, Michelle. Bye.
Bye, you too. So during this timely topic, we wanted to take an opportunity to invite our Chief of Police to the conversation. Chief Reyes is a tenured career public servant. Born in Santa Clara, California, he moved to Texas at age 15, graduated high school in 1989 from Eagle Pass, Texas, and spent the next 6 years serving in the U.S. Army with overseas tours in Panama, South Korea, and Cuba. He began his law enforcement career with the Austin Police Department in 1996, where he retired as an assistant chief of police. Chief Reyes was appointed as our newly appointed Chief of Police for Cedar Hill in April of 2019. He's an advocate of building relationships and serving our community with respect and dignity. Chief?
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you for all the work that you put into this neighborhood summit. Being virtual has become the new normal for a lot of us. Erika, great job on your message. There's a lot of good key takeaways from there, and a lot of this stuff transcends between community and inclusion and police relations in the community. And so that's what I wanted to talk about, a little bit about what we're doing in the police department, things that we've done over the course of the last year, and just to try to keep our communities and our neighborhood informed about what we're doing. So see if I can figure out this clicker. There we go. So one of the things that we did over the course of the last year was work on a mission, vision, and value statement for our police department. And this is a collaboration effort of the officers involved and getting input and feedback from our community about what's important to our community and what do they want to see from their police department and where do we want to take this organization. And so this is the mission, vision, and our values that we came up with as a result of that. And I just want to focus on the left side really, because this is what the guiding principles and should guide the decision making of our officers as they engage with our community members on a regular basis. And that's being compassionate, concern, and caring for our community. You know, we're fortunate in Cedar Hill that our officers have the time to be problem solvers when they go out and take calls in our community and not just be call takers. Many of our officers go above and beyond on a regular basis to make sure that they're solving problems for our community and not just taking calls for service. And honesty, you know, like Erika said, tell your truth, be honest. You know, to be an officer, you have to be honest, integrity and truth in all actions. And that is one of the pillar components that you have to have in the department to serve your community. Professional in everything that we do. And I always tell the officers, every time you go to a call for service, there's always one paid professional there, and that's you. And so you need to act like that paid professional and then do the job that you're out there to do. And then dedicated to building relationships that promote trust and respect. You know, every engagement that we have with a member of our community is an opportunity to build a relationship. And I expect that the officers always are looking at our trust and our relationship meter in our community. And when they engage with a member of our community, that trust meter and that relationship goes up on every time that we meet with someone. And it's because of the work historically that the police officers have done in this city and in this community and building those trust and relationships that throughout the course of the last 6 to 9 months, as we've seen a rise in protests and a call for action on the part of police and community when it comes to police reform, really as a result of a George Floyd incident being the catalyst for that. And how do we move forward from there? And just like Erika said, you have to understand your history to really understand where you're going. So once that incident with George Floyd occurred, that was really the first time in my law enforcement career that I saw a very quick and immediate response from police chiefs and police associations and unions and officers around the country, because that incident, wasn't one that required more information. A lot of times when we have a critical incident involving an officer, it's a shooting or something like that, you only have little snippets of information, but that was a clear incident that occurred where we could make a decisive action on that incident was wrong. Those officers needed to be held accountable, and it was a very quick denouncement. And so with that came some conversations with our patrol officers and the department as a whole to talk about, the history of policing, why there's mistrust between the Black community with police officers and the history behind that, and why there's mistrust with the Hispanic community and the history behind that. And so it's really about understanding about why it is that when you pull over somebody, especially somebody of color, why they're already have a heightened level of fear because of things that have occurred historically. And it's our job as police officers to do everything that we can during that engagement to bring down that level, to build that relationship, to improve that trust. And so, the mayor was really quick to take action on this as well. He signed the dedication that we would abide or make the changes to the 8 can't wait. And most of those policy reforms we already had in place in our department, but there was a few tweaks and some additions that we had to make, and we made those very quickly. And so we incorporated all of those changes into our use of force policy to make sure that we're in line with best practices and the community expectations, and just doing really what's best for our department and our community. And when we talk about our community and our department, we talk about how do we build these relationships. We're very fortunate in Cedar Hill that our community here voted in a portion of our taxes that go into our police and community team. I have a team, a full-time team of 4 officers, a corporal and a sergeant, whose job really it is to build relationships in our community. It's like Erika said, you have to go to the people. You can't expect the people to come to you. And so one of the programs that we started last year in May was our neighborhood walk program. And that's exactly what we're doing. We are taking city services, not just the police department. The police department leads these walks, but we have with us our city council members, the mayor, our city manager, assistant city manager, other department directors, other members of throughout the city services, code enforcement, and we go out into the community. We pick a different neighborhood every few months, and we just go door to door and we knock on the door and we talk to people and we have a conversation and we just ask them, how do you feel about your city services and what can we do to improve? Not just police, not just code enforcement, not just water, but anything, any problem that you have. And what we've taken away from that, and as we're getting close to Veterans Day, it reminded me one of the ones we were on last year, and the mayor was on my team with me, is that we had met some veterans out there and we informed them about a veterans event that we had coming up, and they didn't know anything about it. And then they showed up for it. And it was really like, wow, these guys, because we're out there and we're keeping people informed and we're letting them know what's going on in the city, they can become part of the things that we're doing in the city. And each one of these walks has gotten bigger and bigger over time with more community involvement, more community engagement. We had several different communities that participated in the walk that we had just last Saturday with water stations set up. One person had their barbecue pit out making sandwiches and hot dogs for the officers. And it's really taking down that micro community, because what we're learning from all of these community walks that we've done as we work our way around the city is that as diverse as Cedar Hill is as a city, each one of these neighborhoods is just as diverse. And each one of these neighborhoods has different needs, different concerns, and different expectations of what they want to see from their police department and their city services. And so I'm really proud of these neighborhood walks and what they've come to do. But this is really about building relationships, not just with the police department, but with all of the city services. And I'm thankful that we've gotten the support from our elected leaders, our police administration, and the rest of our departments in the city to participate in those, because it's really bringing our community together. And then I also wanted to talk to you guys about and show you some things that we've added in to keep our community informed when it comes to community engagement and transparency in the department. So if you go to our police department's website, right here on the main page, the first thing that you see there is our mission, vision, and values, because we think that's important to lead with that. But then as you go down, you'll see a crime mapping tool on there. This is really a key component to keeping our community informed about what is going on. When you click on the link there, it's going to take you directly to the crime mapping website. That includes, talk about partnerships, about DeSoto, Duncanville, and Cedar Hill and our Tri-Cities partnership. And so this actually includes all of the reported crime in that Tri-City area. So you see Cedar Hill, DeSoto, and Duncanville on there, but you can actually zoom in to your neighborhood so that you can get really good information about what's going on in your neighborhood, what types of crimes are being committed, and to really stay informed. If you see something, you can click on it and it'll tell you what the incident was, the approximate location of where it occurred, and the date and time of where it occurred. And so it kind of gives you a really good understanding of what's going on, because what we've seen is that with social media and different platforms, that there's a lot of information being exchanged out there from neighbor to neighbor. But it's our job as the police department to make sure that people have the facts and they have all of the information available to really get a clear understanding of what's going on in their community, especially when it comes to their safety and having an understanding of what's going on. With that, we've also created an online reporting tool. So for those minor types of crimes, if you need to make a report, you can just go to this website and you can just click on the link there where it says submit a report. With that, you'll have a little acknowledgement about it's not an emergency. We want you to call 911 for that. And then you can just fill in the details for your report, and then you'll be followed up with by an investigator or one of our community service officers within a day or so. And so that's another key feature that we've added in over the last year. But going back to keeping our community informed, you know, we have a department Facebook page, and we've kind of really tried to make a concerted effort to keep people informed, especially when we have incidents that involve a large police presence. If you have 3 or 4 police cars at a location, you know, there's always this sense of, oh, well, there's so many police cars there, what's going on? And so we're trying to do a better job of when those things happen to put something out on the Facebook page about what exactly it was that was occurring, because, you know, people want to know, they want information, and absent us providing the information, they're going to just be on a guessing game, and that's not fair to our citizens. And so we need to make sure that we're doing a really good job of keeping our community informed. The last thing I want to talk about is the violent crime rate in Cedar Hill. So the basic statement that I have for you is Cedar Hill is safe. When you look at the numbers compared to all of our cities that are close by, Cedar Hill has the lowest violent crime rate in our region. And we had that last year, and we continue to have that. And that is because of the level of interaction that our police officers have and how they're being proactive out there enforcing the laws and doing a lot of traffic enforcement, which leads a lot of times to the discovery of some drugs or weapons and before anything can happen. And so I'm really proud of our officers and the work that they've done in keeping our community safe, because this is really how I measure the safety of our community is violent crime. Now, we all know that Cedar Hill is a destination city for shopping. And so we have a lot of retail shopping. And so when it comes to our shoplifting numbers, they're a little bit higher than our regional cities around the area. But that's expected because we have a higher level of destination of retail areas here. But when someone shoplift, that doesn't put our community at risk. You know, these are the types of crimes here that you see here that I believe really are key to keeping these types of crimes down to make sure that our community is being safe. Also on our page, you'll see links to our Facebook page and our Twitter feed there. And so that's all that I have. So if you guys have any questions, I'll answer your questions now.
Christine Benson, if you want to go ahead with your question.
Well, I actually don't have a question. I would like to give a comment to Chief Reyes. This is Christine Benson. We did the community walk the other day together, and I've had several engagements with you. And I just wanted to commend you on a job well done in the city of Cedar Hill and other cities, and to let you know that I understand the driving force behind the police department. I have been involved with law enforcement for some years now, outside of the office, of course. But I want you to know that I pray for you all daily, that God will continue to keep and guide you as you do the duties that is required in the city.
Thank you. And thank you for being involved.
Thank you, Chief, for being here this morning. Next, I'd like to introduce Ms. Frida Nelms. She is part of the Neighborhood Advisory Board, and she's here to present to you the 2020 Premier Neighborhood Awards.
And the nominees are Cedar Crest has become the 5th community public improvement district in Cedar Hill, with outstanding volunteers that put in hard work and many hours to bring Cedar Crest to a premier and most beautiful state. Due to the pandemic, they were limited to events, but continued their Yard of the Month initiative, kept residents informed by posting on social media, and even organized socially distant cleanup. The Fountains at Lake Ridge is excited about their Cedar Hill Night in White. The event was designed to allow families isolated in their homes and community to socialize at a distance while also focusing on community. Everyone wears white and has many parties in their driveway, dancing and eating. The Fountains at Lake Ridge is a small community of 63 homes. They are committed to maintaining the natural beauty of Cedar Hill in their community. Wildwood of Lake Ridge has been in existence for more than 30 years. Their neighborhood watch group helped with the Citizens on Patrol, annual block party, and national night out. They continually patrol the neighborhood to deter crime and host a crime watch event to keep in constant communication with the many city departments. They pride themselves in the level of destination and distinction, and their neighborhood is preserving. And the winners are
Jackie and Miss Bertha. I am Frida, and on behalf of the Neighborhood Advisory Board, we would like to present Cedar Crest with the Premier Neighborhood 2020 Award, winner up. Woo! Your neighborhood will be receiving $100 to use towards your community. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hi, Zandra and Lena. I'm Frida. I'm with your neighborhood advisory board here in Cedar Hill. And I bet you're wondering why we're here today, right? Because we have you out here in the middle of the day, right? Well, I am here to present to you that you have been finalists in the Premier Neighborhood 2020 award contest. And congratulations, ladies. Your neighborhood won. Congratulations. You will be presented with an additional $200 to go towards your neighborhood. And we just want to come out here and present this to you. Wonderful. Congratulations.
Congratulations. And now I'd like to pass the mic to our chair, and her name is Kim.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kim Rimmer. I'm the outgoing chairman of the Neighborhood Advisory Board. And the last segment belongs to me. We're going to start off with some giveaways. So Allison, roll that wheel.
There we go. We have a Cedar Hill.
Yeah, we have a Cedar Hill plaque. It says there's no place like Cedar Hill. And Peggy Comment, congratulations. And let's go ahead with one more. We have some coasters that have the latitude and longitude of Cedar Hill. So roll that wheel. Congratulations. And let's do one more. We have a coffee mug, a Cedar Hill coffee mug, and a face mask, Cedar Hill face mask that says Cedar Hill Strong. Carrie Nelson, congratulations. And our final gift is going to be Life is Better in Cedar Hill pillow. Jacqueline Ivy, congratulations. All right, I want to wrap today's neighborhood summit up. A couple of shameless plugs I'd like to make. I want to remind people that we have a new My Cedar Hill mobile app. It's a great tool to make requests, find contact information, and stay connected to the city. Also, we have coming up Friday, October the 2nd at 8 p.m., we'll have a virtual music in the park that will be live streaming. So we invite everybody to participate. And last but not least, we have our National Night Out. This year, because of COVID conditions, we'll be doing a drive-through style. It'll be October 6th at 6 p.m. You can go to the website, the Cedar Hill website, and you'll find different stations that are set up throughout the city. So come out and support Cedar Hill and the police department. I just want to close with a few remarks. I've had the distinct privilege of serving the city of Cedar Hill as a member of the Neighborhood Advisory Board for the last 7 years. And I've also had the honor of serving the board members as their chairman for the last 2 of those 7 years. 2020 has certainly been a year of challenges and uncertainty, but we have faced these challenges with the firm resolve to continue the work of supporting Cedar Hills neighborhoods through this program, the Neighborhood Summit, and others such as the Premier Neighborhood Awards. My hope is that today you've discovered some golden nugget from our speaker. You'll take that home with you and figure out a way to implement what was shared today in your own neighborhood, because together we're better. On behalf of the Neighborhood Advisory Board and the Neighborhood Services Department, I want to thank each of you for joining us today at the 3rd Annual Neighborhood Summit, and we hope that you will join us next year. Thank you so much.